NFL insiders have revealed the real reason why Joe Douglas got fired and a lot of the reasons why the decisions were made that were made for Joe Douglas and the New York Jets, and including nixing a trade that the Jets could have made that would have been a massive win for them, and we're going to break this down. What's up, guys? Welcome back to Jets Digest. It's Chris and Matt here, and we're going to jump right into things as we always do. Also, guys, make sure to subscribe to the channel. It helps us out a lot. But let's jump into this. Here's what we know about Woody Johnson. He makes a lot of the decisions around the New York Jets. It's just what happens with the Jets. The guy's an involved owner when he feels like being involved, and he's been calling a lot of the shots, which has led to a lot of firings and weird decisions. And let's look at it because the Athletics revealed the truth, which essentially it all started, well, this nonsense all started after the Jets lost in that 10-9 game to the Broncos at home. Johnson suggested that Aaron Rodgers gets benched in favor of Tyrod Taylor because of Rodgers' performance and believing it was holding back the team. The coaches were all stunned at the decision, and it convinced Woody Johnson to stay the course and not benching Rodgers. Well, here's the deal. The coaches also let it be known that it would embarrass Rodgers. The idea of benching a future Hall of Famer sounded so absurd that one coach asked whether Woody Johnson was even serious. Multiple sources from that meeting believe that he was being serious. I mean, interesting strategy. Not one that I would decide because Tyrod Taylor's also not young. But definitely, Matt, this is a case of Woody Johnson getting way too involved as usual.
Yeah, he always does this. We said we finally know the reason why Joe Douglas got fired, and hint, hint, it's not that surprising. So Joe Douglas, he has been handcuffed since he took over the job. It's not even close to fair. He has never even had the full GMing powers. Woody Johnson, we're going to go further into this with another excerpt from The Athletic, but we have seen that even last year, Woody Johnson has been having his greedy little mitts in every single decision made by the Jets, made by what Joe Douglas has to put his name on it, but it's been Woody Johnson. And Woody Johnson should put his name on it because he's the guy who can't get fired. So he should be the guy taking the fault for this. We've seen over and over and over again, he only cares about clicks and he wants stuff from social media, not actually making the team better. He's turning it to Jerry Jones, but at least Jerry Jones, the Dallas Cowboys lose every playoff game, but at least they get to the playoffs. The Jets have one of the worst playoff droughts of all time. Looking it up yesterday, there was a team that went 25 years without making the playoffs. I don't know how that's possible, but the Jets very well might be up there next. I am so scared Woody Johnson is going to keep messing this up because it doesn't seem like he's learning his lesson from the past mistakes. He keeps meddling and keeps meddling and keeps meddling, and he just feels like for some reason, he thinks the next move he's going to make is going to be the move that fixes the team. There is going to be, according to Adam Schefter today, he believes 7 to 9 head coaches are going to be fired at the end of the season or during the season while it winds down. So there are going to be 8 other spots for potential head coaches to go instead of the Jets. So the Jets, they're definitely going to be very low on the openings, the job openings, because coaches aren't going to want to come coach the Jets because they know they're not going to have a fair shot to be the actual coach and make a successful team. So that's going to handcuff the GM going out and finding a new GM, and it's going to be more difficult to go find a successful head coach to take over this team. So I'm very scared to see all these ridiculous things that Woody Johnson has done.
Yeah, I mean, where my mind goes with this, it kind of reminds me in that way of that certain scene of Moneyball when Brad Pitt's asking the owner for more money and the owner's like, no. But instead of that happening, Brad Pitt goes in there and suggests something and the owner says, no, instead we're going to do the exact opposite and do something completely insane because I just took a bunch of acid and decided this is what I'm doing now. Look, Woody Johnson's nuts. We all know he's nuts. It's not surprising that he's nuts. And there's a lot of instances to show that Woody Johnson's completely insane. Now, Joe Douglas had already lost some power midway through last season when Woody Johnson took a more active role. As an example, Douglas had a contract extension offer. He was getting ready to propose to a defensive end in Bryce Huff and his agent, but Woody Johnson vetoed that after Bryce Huff had a breakout season. And then the other moves involving paying new money to players on the roster by January, Douglas seemed to have even less control. That's when he fired assistant manager Rex Hogan, who, by the way, Douglas is close with. Multiple team sources theorized that Johnson forced Douglas's hand, and in the aftermath, Douglas told Jets staffers, Woody should just fire me now. I mean, Matt, it's not just that Woody Johnson's completely nuts. It's that we're seeing this situation where Joe Douglas was left on an island, had to fire his friend in the assistant GM, and Woody Johnson essentially took over as the general manager with Joe Douglas as his assistant. Joe Douglas is wondering why he's not getting fired because he figured, hey, why should I even be here at this point? And he's right. I mean, this entire trio, you realize nothing really falls on them that much. I mean, yeah, Aaron Rodgers would be better if he was 5 years younger, and maybe Robert Saleh wasn't the best head coach in the world, but the defense was much better under Saleh. The team was 2-3. Joe Douglas made a lot of moves that made sense, and some of the moves that didn't. It wasn't even his call. It was Woody Johnson. What is this?
I don't know. I feel like it's not even out of the range of possibilities that Woody Johnson doesn't even hire GM, and he just is the GM himself, because it certainly seems like he really wants to do it. I said earlier I likened him to Jerry Jones, the owner of the Cowboys, and Jerry Jones is a GM, so Woody Johnson might just want to take over that too. I would rather have him be the GM instead of giving us a figurehead GM, because it's not fair to whoever that GM is. This
I agree.
Entire 6 years or 5.5 years, how many years it was for Joe Douglas was not fair at all to him. It really wasn't fair at all. And we have defended him so much on this channel, and it makes me feel so bad because, yes, he missed on some draft picks. Every GM misses on draft picks. It's not possible to get them all right. But the ones that he did hit on, the thing about drafting, you got to swing for the fences. You swing for the biggest upside guys. So some guys are going to hit their upside, and it's going to cover up for the guys who don't hit their upside. And that's what this team did. The roster was really, really, really good. And it doesn't matter because they're handcuffed by ridiculous decisions by Woody Johnson over and over and over and over again. And it's so frustrating because he makes the same mistakes and doesn't even learn from them. If you're going to make a mistake, at least make it a learning opportunity and don't make it again the next year. However,
no.
Yep, Chris, just cut me off. Show the graphic. Read the next quote.
Yeah, you know what's coming. I have to get to it. So last season, both Robert Saleh and Joe Douglas agreed they needed to focus on rectifying some past mistakes they had made in free agency. Specifically, they wanted to avoid aging players or ones with injury concerns. When offensive tackle Tyron Smith and wide receiver Mike Williams lingered in the initial wave of free agent signings, the Jets pursued both. Multiple team sources believe that this was a matter of Johnson's preoccupation with social media factoring into the Jets' decision-making. No other teams, including the Dallas Cowboys, where Smith had spent his whole career with, had expressed interest in signing him, so the former All-Pro accepted the Jets offer. The 33-year-old has allowed the most sacks of the Jets' offensive linemen and is currently out with a neck injury, which is not the first time he's had a neck injury. Williams, coming off of a torn ACL, also signed for a one-year incentive-laden deal that didn't work out, and now sees Mike Williams probably having a blast because Mike Williams gets to play for the Steelers, who are 8-2. So congrats to the Steelers there, and congrats to Mike Williams, I should really say, because your life is a lot better now. But it's just insane, Matt, especially when considering all these mistakes. Do any live up to this one? To all this right here. The real icing on the cake. Woody Johnson fired Robert Saleh without consulting anyone. He blocked the Bryce Huff extension, as we already talked about. He nixed the trade involving Alan Lazard and a day 2 pick for Jerry Jeudy, which, would have been a phenomenal trade because the Browns...
Wait. I got to cut in on this. I don't think that would have been a phenomenal trade. I think
would have liked it.
Alan Lazard is worse than Jerry Jeudy, yes. However, with the connection that he has with Aaron Rodgers, it makes Alan Lazard better, and Jerry Jeudy isn't a day 2 pick better than Alan Lazard. So Jerry Jeudy, he was on the Denver Broncos at this time when this trade happened. This was before he was traded to the Cleveland Browns. Yes, he's having a great season now. Who knows what it would have looked like on the Jets. He would have been the number 2 receiver behind Garrett Wilson. They would have presumably signed him to a longer term deal. But if you remember, I don't know exactly what the contract was for Judy, but it was a lot of money that the Browns paid him. And everyone said that was way too much money for Jerry Judy. So it would have been a very expensive wide receiver too. And I don't know about you, but I plan on paying our wide receiver one, Garrett Wilson, a ton of money. And we cannot have too much of our salary cap tied up between only two receivers. So I don't think that was the right move. I got to pat Woody on the back, give him some props. I think this was the right move by him, the one and only right move that he's ever made as a GM. I mean, he might as well be the GM, but as the owner of the New York Jets.
Look, I like the idea of having younger players on the Jets. Regardless, the fact that he's nixing trades is just an awful thing to do.
Yeah, no, that he should not have unless it's a really, 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 really bad deal, he should never have the power to do that. And that's a problem. That's a problem.
Like, it's absurd. So, for instance, the New York Knicks, back when they were a terrible franchise, like when they were the New York Jets of basketball, in 2017, 2018, they had Carmelo Anthony, an aging NBA superstar who was still a very good player, an all-star every year with the Knicks. And the Knicks general manager or president of basketball operations, Phil Jackson, who was terrible at his job, despite being one of the greatest coaches of all time, he tried to cut Carmelo Anthony from the team, which would have costed a ton of money. It would have literally costed the Knicks a ton of money. And what happened? James Dolan, the Knicks owner, who's widely regarded as one of the worst owners in sports, comes in and says, no, you're not allowed to do that, and because you tried to do that, you're fired. Like, that's the kind of situation where Woody Johnson should get involved. When the GM is just going to do something so absurd that also leads to paying someone for a while anyway. And I know football's different with the non-guaranteed contracts, but still, in my mind, that's the world where an owner should get involved and really no other.
It's funny that you say that because we would have had to eat $9 million of Lazard's salary should we have traded him away to the Broncos.
Fair. But regardless, benching Tony Adams against the staff's wishes and the micromanagement of Douglas saying he should just fire me now. It's absurd. It's just absurd.
How does he have the power to bench a player? How is that even possible?
I have no idea.
That's not an ownership decision. That's not a GM decision. That is a coaching decision on the field. Woody Johnson is not at practice every week. They saw him at practice on Tuesday before Joe Douglas was fired, and people said, wow, something is different. There's something wrong here. Something is going to happen today. When you see the coaches who should be making decisions on guys like Tony Adams, they're there every day. They're watching him every day. That is not his decision. We sound like a broken record at this point because he just keeps making decisions that are not his decision to make. And he should just fire me now by Joe Douglas is so sad to see because it sucks because he's been such a good GM. There have only been a handful of guys who have drafted both the offensive rookie and the defensive rookie of the year in the same draft class. And he did it. Joe Douglas did it. And he didn't even stop there. He drafted more good players. I mean, he's just made so many, even day 3 picks, guys like Braylon Allen. He just, it's fun. And all season out other pickups as well, like Quinnen Williams. They brought him in, an undersized linebacker. Can he really be a star in the NFL? Yep. First team All-Pro linebacker. Absolutely can be a star. And you know what he did? That All-Pro, he paid him through a ton of money, right? No, he got him on a bargain deal. It was cheap at the time, and then he went out and had that first team All-Pro year, and the contract became a bargain contract. He's signing to less money because he's brothers with Quinnen Williams on the team. Another contract that Joe Douglas nailed because Quinnen Williams deserves it. And there's a lot of great moves. I know there are a couple. I can't even say a lot of bad moves. There are a couple bad moves, but so many of the bad moves, people have to understand they were made by Woody Johnson, forcing the hand of Joe Douglas. We have said so many times that Woody Johnson forced Joe Douglas to pick Zach Wilson. And today, I think we could stand taller on that take than we ever have before because we can absolutely he clearly has had too much control. And forcing the GM to take a bad player like Zach Wilson is 110% right up the alley of something that Woody Johnson would do.
This guy is insane. Woody's a nut. There it is. I always point the wrong way. I was very proud of myself. But guys, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like this video. Let us know down below if you think Woody Johnson's absolutely insane like we do. And if you don't, well, then you're absolutely insane. Nah, I'm just kidding. I'm not kidding. You are. You're insane if you think Woody Johnson's at all not the worst at his job. Have a great day and go Jets.